Craig Campbell, my man. How you doing, fella?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. All right, we'll just get straight into it. So I have questions asked from the community for Craig, mixed in with a couple of questions of my own. And it's all in the questions of Black Hat, affiliate, YouTube, and buying and selling sites. So in regards to buying links, I'll go straight into it. In regards to buying links, do you use a Gmail address to communicate, and do I need to be paranoid about it?
So when it comes to buying links, yes, I use a Gmail. I use G Suite. I'm not doing outreach and doing all this. I'm buying links. So I'm basically emailing someone saying, dude, have you got some stuff in the finance niche or whatever? Like, do I believe that Google are reading that? No. I mean, it's not something that I would consider to be a massive trap. And I know people are paranoid and people don't store stuff in Google Sheets and, all the PBNs or whatever. People are paranoid that Google can scrape that and deal with it. Do I give a shit? I mean, I don't necessarily use my Gmail. If I want something from let's say, Kazra, who was up speaking earlier, I'm going to pick up the phone or WhatsApp him. Dude, fucking sort me out. How much is this going to cost? There's no real trail. So it's not something that I would always do through email anyway. So you just always know a guy that knows a guy. So sometimes that could be on Facebook, it could be on anything. So the Gmail thing for me, it's just nonsense. And a lot of the buying of links that I do are not necessarily done through email. It's just, could be Skype, it could be whatever. So
okay. All right. Have you noticed, so another question here, have you noticed that links from news sites are not as powerful anymore?
So it depends what you determine news sites. Now, obviously you've got syndicated PR. Now, we all know that those drop out of the Google's index after 90 days. We know a lot of those are no longer Google News approved, and there's all these kind of changes going on. So do I think syndicated PR is as powerful as it maybe once was? I would say no, it probably isn't. But when you say news sites, would I want a link on something like The Sun? Do I see them as being powerful? Do I see them as being trustworthy? Whether they're follow or no follow, all this kind of stuff, there's all arguments to be had for that. So, the higher tier digital PR is where I think things are going, because I think a lot of the lower end news websites are saturated. You look at something like Market Watch, for example, it's got 400,000 outbound links on it. So really, that's just a piece of shit, and that's why you can buy it for $5. So I think, what we're looking for as SEOs is something that's not as saturated as, that lower tier stuff. And obviously the stuff that's harder to get, that may require a digital PR to come up with a creative story, to pitch it to journalists, those are harder to achieve, because collectively as SEOs, including myself, we're all lazy bastards. So I think the lazy bastards have basically saturated the lower end stuff, and we have to look higher up the chain and try and get a bit more quality and less saturated stuff.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to get better at that barrier to entry. Yeah. Another question here about S3 buckets. Is that Amazon Web Services? S3 buckets used to be a great place. To dump mass computer-generated pages. Do you think that still works?
So it's not something that I personally do as a strategy, but there's a fellow over in the US called Brian Cato, and he does some cool stuff with not necessarily S3 buckets, but Google Sheets and all that kind of stuff. So is there a place for that type of thing in the industry? Then yes, these people pull out results and say, here's what happens when I do this. For me, that type of thing is a lot of effort for a small amount of reward. Do you have to do that as part of your strategy? Less than 50% of people are probably doing that. So it's not, I'm not saying it's shit and it doesn't work. There's a place for everything in the industry, but it's certainly not something that I would be focusing my personal attention on the websites that I work on.
Okay. Do you use any blogging platforms for any Black Hat SEO?
Yes. So when you say blogging platforms, I'm assuming you're talking about Blogger and all of this kind of stuff. Charles Float, wherever he is, I don't know if he's here or next door or whatever. He talks a lot about parasite SEO and stuff like that. And I think, again, trying to leverage Blogger is very, very old school. Whereas you want to leverage the same thing, but on a high-powered website. So is there a place for the crappier stuff again? Yes. Does it move the needle? That's arguable. But does it help retain stuff in the index? Yes. Now, would I go out there and try and post an article on Blogger hoping that it was going to rank? I think that's been spammed to death and, it's kind of devalued somewhat. I'd be looking for something that was not necessarily a spammy Blogger platform. I'd be looking for the kind of Charles, what Charles talks about a lot is parasite SEO. So yes, I think there's a place for them in the industry, potentially to help with indexation, and spam the shit out of stuff to retain stuff in the index. So I would use something like that to potentially keep my niche edits in the index. So I don't think they're needle movers, but if it helps keep my niche edits indexed, then it's an underlying strategy when it comes to tiered link building.
A cheap way of doing it, yeah.
Yeah. So and the thing is, when you build your tiered link building, let's say you've got your money website here, and let's say you've just got 5 guest posts. You want to power those guest posts with niche edits or whatever you can get, but it's always got to be cheaper. You can't power your guest posts with other guest posts. Why would you do that? You're going to be bankrupt very, very quickly. So we are looking at using those platforms as a lower, spammier way to keep things in the index. So there's a structure and a strategy there, and I think they do serve a purpose. But again, it's not something where I would say use these to try and dominate for payday loans, because someone in here who's doing payday loans is going to see what a lot of shit. They're not going to move anything. So yeah, I think they serve their purpose depending on where you place them into your strategy. And for me, that purpose would be trying to retain stuff in the index rather than them being big needle movers.
Charging.
Yeah.
Okay. On to affiliate, right? How about finding good affiliate marketing offers, right? Have you got any strategies or any particular marketplaces that you think are coming up or you think are...
So I used to do a lot more affiliate. I'm kind of going off of affiliate. We've seen it. I used to do a lot of Amazon affiliate until they cut the commission. I think it was 2 or 3 times in the space of 2 years. I got rid of all my Amazon stuff in 2020 when they cut it again. I'm just like, this is shit. The commissions are really shit. So Amazon don't need affiliates anymore, so they can treat you like a dog. Go away, guys. We don't really need you. So for me, when you're looking for deals, even if you do get a good deal, they could still kick you into touch within a couple of weeks, which kind of puts me off of, affiliate in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong, there's many SaaS tools and everything else out there that are willing to pay you 30, 40% to help grow their business. And I think for me, rather than going to CG affiliates or something like that, where you're earning those crappy little affiliates, I would go direct. You want to avoid the middleman is essentially what I'm saying. I would go direct to SaaS tools and stuff like that, because the commissions are going to be chunkier, and you're always wanting that commission. You can go to booking.com, you get 5%. It's not great, but if you're getting volume, then fine, it's great. But I think going direct to people, and most companies out there should have some form of affiliate, or they're not doing it properly. So I'm not going to necessarily Commission Junction. There's a million of these places. I'm going direct. Because I'm an SEO guy, though, it was easier for me to sell SEMrush than, I don't know, like Booking.com or whatever. Why would I sell hotels? I don't know next to nothing about them. So for me, it was easier to go down the route of selling SaaS and stuff like that, but the commissions are decent. But just bear in mind that you can potentially still be kicked into touch, as Amazon have done, as other people have done. So just be wary of that. Other things that I would also highlight. So you need to watch the cookie policies on affiliate deals. You know, Amazon are very generous. For example, they gave you 24 hours where whatever that person bought, they, you know, whether it was a camera website I had, whether you went on there and bought, I don't know, deodorant and everything else, I would still get a commission. So the cookie policy was very generous from Amazon, but you need to be careful with cookie policies because I've been fucked over. So also consider that. Be wary of the cookie policies. Would be, you know, when you're looking around, try and make sure that they've got the tracking set up and they've not got some funny cookie policy where you're potentially going to struggle and have to fight for your sales.
Yeah. How about, have you got any experience with approaching somebody that maybe doesn't have an affiliate program, but you think they've got, like, you could sell their product?
Yeah.
And how do you approach or suggest a company like a plugin or something like that would do that? What do you suggest?
There's tons of different platforms out there off the shelf that you can buy to track affiliates. You know, oh God, what's the one Chris Palmer uses again? I can't even remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there are tons of platforms where you can basically track all of that stuff very, very easily, and it's very, very cost effective. So if someone has a business, and I get quite a lot of people come to me now, and they want me to try and lure other affiliates into their affiliate program. So these are companies or SaaS tools that don't necessarily do affiliate. They're taking a product to market, and they want me to go, guys, you know, affiliate's a great thing, you know, this is a great niche as well. Here you go, and lure them on. And but there's lots of different platforms to do it off the shelf. Okay,
cool. Hold on a sec. I've got a question here about SGE. So, search generated experience that's coming up with Google. So it's like an AI featured snippet.
Yep.
Right? So should affiliate SEOs worry about the approaching SGE?
I mean, the honest answer is I don't know. So we had a conversation with Charles Float backstage talking about this stuff. And I think Charles mentioned December, this has been rolled out for real. He's playing around with the beta testing and all this kind of stuff. And that stuff's appearing above paid ads. So, and obviously Microsoft are trying to force this on to people. Now, do I think this is going to come out? I think Charles mentioned, you know, he sees it being delayed. But is this coming, and is it coming soon? The answer is yes. And it pushes us further down the page, which is a pain in the ass. So I do think it's a problem. I don't know the answer to that problem, how we get round about it until we see, you know, how we adapt. But what I would say is a lot of people in the SEO space over the last 10 years have panicked because of whatever, you know, even when Google Maps first came out in 2012 or 11 or whenever it was, people were like, oh shit, you know, we're being pushed further down, what are we going to do? We embraced it, we dealt with it, and we manipulate Google Maps now. So, you know, is there a way to manipulate this stuff? There will be. And, you know, I know certain guys in this room, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there's guys that are trying to feed in information to try and claim these snippets further down the line. So I think it's one of those things we just have to embrace and deal with it as it comes. You know, I don't have the answers to say, guys, we all have to stop SEO now or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think it'll be very similar to Google Maps, where we have to figure a way out to manipulate it and, you know, take some of that space as well. So if it's that space, Maps, and then the organic down at the bottom, we'll just grab all three. So I wouldn't panic too much, but who knows? Who knows?
Okay. How about this? You've got a marketplace you just launched, right?
Yeah.
Right. So marketplace for buying and selling digital assets. Let's talk about that. Well, tell us a bit about the platform first.
So it's called onlinebusinessflippers.com. Now, Empire Flippers are, of course, the premium creme de la creme marketplace. You've got FE International. You've got all of these kind of big players that are out there doing amazing jobs. So the job of my marketplace is not necessarily to compete with those guys. You know, I heard Thomas talking yesterday on FE International. You know, we have websites that, you know, are 1 million plus on there. Now, for me, I train a lot of people. I've got my own private mastermind, and I've got a lot of guys who are doing reasonably well with their agencies, but they want to diversify their income streams. They're not looking to spend $1 million on an Empire Flippers or an FE International. They're looking for something at 10, 20, 30 grand or whatever to invest in a few digital assets that have potential growth that they can then flip and sell for a much higher profit. So I'm trying to enter at that market because I want to be able to bring stuff to the table, because we can go on private Facebook groups, we can go on here, you can go to Flipper, but a lot of guys are getting their fingers burnt because they don't they don't do due diligence for one reason or another. So the marketplace is there to do due diligence so that you can have a small investment and try and get into the the buying and selling marketplace, and obviously build yourself up to a level where you can go to an Empire Flippers or an FE International or anyone else out there, and build yourself up to chucking £1 million at a website. So I want to aim for that smaller segment of the market to be able to help the people that I train and that I have in my mastermind, to, because a lot of them, everyone in here will be like, I fucking hate client work. Let's get out of working with clients and buying digital assets, whether it be an e-com store, a tool or whatever. People want to do that eventually. So as part of the course, and obviously I see lots of people come to me because I've had an agency and I've went and pivoted towards affiliate, and people want to know how you done that, what was the thought process, what was the timing, how did you start, what did you pay. So I'm able to put all of that information into the mastermind, but I don't have assets to sell. So that's why, and I've spoke about it for a number of years doing this marketplace, and I'm always just like, nah, go to this, go and buy that, or go here, go on the flipping websites, Facebook group or whatever. But again, they come back to me going, oh, I've been fucking robbed. Some douchebag sold me this website and, it's collapsed. And you're like, geez, you've got to check this or that. So
you'll do the due diligence on other websites, for example, and then, okay.
So that's the thought process behind that.
That's good, man. How about, so let's say you got a smaller site and you're building it up, or any site, and you'd like to have a rough idea of the valuation. Is there any rules of thumbs for people, before they take it to FE International or yourself, or is there a rule of thumb for different types of, like, let's say lead gen affiliate or e-com websites?
I mean, the guys, I'm very new to the flipping place, but having a conversation with one of the fellows at Empire Flippers, you were comfortably getting 50 times multiples on your website. That's going backwards now. You're not getting quite as much as that now. But again, it depends on your niche, how long you've been earning that money and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to get a higher multiple the longer your website has consistently been earning money. So a lot of people try and scale up a website within 3 months and go, it earns £3 grand a month. This is a 150 grand website. And you're like, nah. That's not how this works. We need consistency. And also it's niche dependent, and there's a lot of different little nuances in there. So there is a fella here, Christian from Empire Flippers, who does the valuations. He is much better, if anyone's looking for the answer to that, to answer all the different little nuances as to why is this one getting a 35 times multiple and that one's only getting 25. It's niche dependent, and stuff like that as well. So but he is probably better placed to give you a more in-depth answer on that.
Okay.
But you want consistency. I want to see 12 months worth of solid earnings. I'm going to check the backlink profile. I'm going to reverse engineer what's done. But more importantly, what is attractive to me as a buyer is there enough room for growth for me to scale that up? That is what's interesting for me. So can I take your website there at £3 grand, you're earning £3 grand a month, can I take that to 10? If you've kind of exhausted that niche and you're getting to 3, and I think, I could maybe get it to 4 or 5, then I'm just like, fuck that. I want something that I can grow 10 times or whatever. So, you've also got to consider that, because I could sell a website just now. I'm not going to get the multiple I want because I feel that I've already topped out what I can do with that particular website. And I know that myself. Is someone going to give me X amount of money for that when there's no real room for growth? No, why would you? So it has to have enough meat in the table for someone to be able to progress with it.
Or to get a good price, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. just guys in the audience, have a think of a couple questions. I'm going to ask another question here, and I'm going to come to the audience, okay? Let's talk about YouTube. How about YouTube search versus Google search? Do you find, are you noticing a difference between just Google search and YouTube search in terms of optimization signals?
So YouTube's a lot easier to manipulate than Google search. There's a lot of nuances within Google depending on what you're targeting, whereas YouTube is pretty much still a free-for-all. It's like SEO from 10 years ago. Now, obviously, a lot of people do consume YouTube content. A lot of people, search on YouTube. So I think it's definitely a good place to be. I don't know statistically where it is, but I know TikTok had more traffic than Google at one point. I don't know if that's changed somewhat. Then it was Google, then it was YouTube. So YouTube's definitely up there in terms of traffic. And even for me as a human being, not necessarily from an SEO space, but if I want to learn something about, I don't know, some Estonian history or something, I'm probably not going to Google it. I'm probably going to go to YouTube and check out what's going on in Estonia or whatever it may be. So for me as a human being, what do? Yeah, I lie in my bed at night, like everyone else, on YouTube, researching stuff, and it might be whatever. What's the healthiest thing to eat or whatever. So I think YouTube's definitely a place where there's a lot of traffic, and certainly for me, who has a real low attention span, I just want to consume short, sharp videos. I don't want to read a big fucking long blog post. So for me personally, I love it.
Yeah. So it's easier to rank on there.
Yeah, and it's easier to rank. Yeah.
How about anyone from the audience? Do we have any questions? It's so hard to see from here. Yeah, in the back of the room. Yeah.
In the back of the room, yeah, here. What does a day in the life of Craig Campbell look like today?
So a day for me, so a lot of people say, what do you do day to day? How many hours do you put in? I'm an SEO guy, and I've always loved SEO, so I still try and keep my hand in doing as much as I can. But previously, I built myself into my business rather than working on the business. So that's when I had an agency. So I struggled to delegate, I struggled to trust, and I built up an agency that I struggled to scale. So these days, I try and build a team round about me to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So for example, I'll go into the office, check out some of my websites, my rankings, how much money I've earned, record a few videos. That goes to an editing team. If I look at my website as well and the rankings and something's changed, I'll sit and, there's people in the office that will deal with that and, try and tweak stuff or whatever. So it's more, I try and work on the business rather than in the business. So in terms of me, can I be someone like Corey who has, reads Google patents and patents, whatever you want to call them, all day, proper geek level? That's not me. I've got to be able to understand SEO enough, and I have learned a lot in the 22 years that I've done it. But do I do a lot of the heavy lifting these days? The answer is no. Record a few videos. I have the personal brand as well, so I focus a bit of time on that. And yeah, basically try and use other people to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I need to be able to, my business needs to be able to run. If I want to go on holiday for 3 months, or I get hit by a bus, whatever, and I end up in hospital for 3 months, my business has to still be able to run. And what I initially done was that wasn't possible when I had an agency, and I knew that wasn't possible. So as I have grown the digital assets and the affiliate side and the personal brand, I now am in a position where I can travel to conferences. I can take a month off if I want, and I'll still be making money. So yeah, it would be lies to sit there and say that I sit and do a lot of work, but I do try and test a lot of different stuff, and I still love tools and I still love all that stuff. So I do still consider myself to be fairly hands-on with stuff, but I'm not a Corey level, reading the patents and proper geeking out on that stuff. So yeah, I'm as lazy as most other SEOs. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. How about I think we all like learning about the things that go wrong.
Yeah.
Tell us about anything that went wrong, any lessons learned. I heard you got some in the women's clothing niche.
So it's all good and well saying that I entered affiliate or I buy and sell digital assets. Probably 7 out of 10 I have massively fucked up on, and the women's clothing was one. So I'm like, I hate clients, I want to make money, what the fuck do I do? So my wife suggested the women's clothing must be a good niche. So I went into SEMrush, women's clothing, high heels, dresses, bags, fucking hundreds of thousands of searches. So I'm like, whoa, right? So we get this stuff. So we get the website, start spending money and creating content and all this shit. Now, in the women's clothing niche, you'll find that it's probably high volume, low margin. That's the name of the game. What I didn't really consider was that women like to return a lot of the clothes. So when you return something to me, it basically fucking wipes out my profit. I'm making fuck all. So anyway, we order all this stuff. So I'm like, buy these dresses, buy these bags. So me and the wife are selecting this stuff. Now, and I don't mean any offence to anyone in here, but so there was these white knee-high boots that were on there. So I'm like, fuck, let's buy these. So the wife's like, what the fuck? No one's ever going to buy this stuff. And they were the best-selling thing you could ever get, by the way. The problem was, and this wasn't deliberate, it was transvestites or men who like to wear women's clothes who were buying these white knee-high boots. Now, when you make women's clothes or women's shoes, they only go up to a size 10. They're probably thinner made. Women have thinner feet than a guy. So I've got these fucking blokes putting these white knee-high boots on, wearing them on a night out, and then coming back saying, dude, these are fucking not a size 8. These are tight, they've blistered my feet, I'm sending them back. And you're getting these things back and there's fucking blood on the inside. And you're making no profit, and you're just like, fuck this, I'm not fucking doing this. So I didn't understand the buying behaviour of women, and I should have, because my wife does the exact same thing. She returns everything. So all these blokes were buying these white knee-high boots and sending them back, and they were all scraped and fucking blood, and you're just like, am I supposed to fucking resell this? So nah. That was that. So I looked at the search volume and thought, this is really good, and then realised that it was really fucking grim. So no offence to any blokes that wear white knee-high boots. I know there's a few in here, but it wasn't for me anyway. Yeah.
Oh, Craig Campbell, everyone. Put your hands together. Come on.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you. See you soon.